Hi, I'm Andrew Rodriguez, and welcome to Psycho Bible, battling about psychology and theology. And I'm happy to have another guest on my show today. This is actually one of the viewers of my channel. He reached out to me after my one video talking about the First Love Unbroken Surrender Conference, where I was talking about how we're doing a mental health conference, but also there was hip hop artists there, and he's like, "Well, hey, I'm a Christian hip hop artist, and also have an experience of coming out of LGBT or just dealing with same-sex attraction." So kind of fits everything I was talking about in that video. So he reached out to me, got to meet with him a bit a few weeks ago, and so he asked if he could jump on, and I thought that would be really interesting, especially after that video and another one where I interviewed another musician to just give another opportunity for a music artist to share a bit about his life and his story. So please welcome to the channel, Spencer Boliou. Spencer, how you doing tonight?
Hey, doing well. So good to be here.
Great to have you. Great to see you and speaking with you again. And well, just first, give us a little elevator pitch. Who you are, what do you do, where you're from, geographically and all that, and how people can find out more about you.
Yeah, you're right. I'm a longtime stalker of your channel, so seen way too many hours of your content, and yeah, that's just been a major help on my journey. Just getting into music, getting into a chance to share my story more. I make Christian hip hop. I live a little more in the alternative R&B
Mm.
world. But most of my friends are rappers, and I have a ministry called Upside Down Kingdoms with Curtis Hoppy and Derek Ryan, and we do a lot of events together and collaborate. And
Okay.
yeah, point being, my passions are definitely music, but also having the chance to really impact people's lives in a direct way through live events, through things like podcasts, which we're starting as well. I know everyone has a podcast, but uh, we're we're
It's a
doing our
great
best.
platform. There you go.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm just someone who's passionate about music, particularly for the main reason of being able to. Well, I love music first of all, and second of all, being able to share um, really the hope and light of the way that God's working in my life and the lives of people I know in a way that
Mm.
I can actually communicate. I feel like my words don't always go as far as I want them to, and
Mm.
music is a way for me to express those things, I think, even more clearly sometimes.
Mm. Well, let's start with the beginning here. Where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about your family. Just give me a little background of who you are.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I was so interested in your channel is because both of my parents are mental health professionals. They're
Uh-huh.
both marriage and family counselors, and for me, being someone who's looking for answers and dealing with my own um, journey with same-sex attraction and how to really like grow through this and grow more and more out of this experience. Um, yeah, it's been a journey, but I would say for me, growing up in my household, I don't fit a lot of the stereotypes that people would think of for
Hmm.
what would quote unquote make someone gay or experience these things. Um, because I mean, I had an incredible family. My parents were absolute role models. I have so many friends growing up that you could just tell like they would love to trade places with my
Mm.
household. So incredible mother and father and great church community I grew up in and all of that. Um, so for me, I think growing up, it's just been a story of, for one reason or another, that I've come to learn more, just
Mm.
developing these gender insecurities and yeah, just a lack of confidence around who I am as initially a boy and as a man, and that just kind of slowly building up and not being fully addressed because I didn't know what was going on. No one else in my life knew what was going on. It was all very much under the surface. So I don't blame anyone for that reason. Um, but
Hmm.
this insecurity was building in me since
Mm.
very early childhood. Yeah.
Well, can you give some examples of that? And what were some of the things you noticed that you were insecure about and how you dealt with that?
Yeah. So a lot of the examples are kind of dumb on the surface. Like for example, I remember oh, one of my favorite examples is my mom. So I'm a triplet, by the way. I have a triplet brother
Mm,
and a triplet sister. So I kind of had the best of both worlds, had a brother and a sister. And so
hmm
there was like this clear delineation in my mind of like what it was to be a girl and what it was to be a boy. Because I
mm,
have like my mother and my father, and then my sister and my brother. And when I didn't fit neatly into those categories in every way, I was one of
mm,
those kind of overly thoughtful kids who would just overthink stuff. Um,
hmm
so, for example, my dad would like pull a piece of pasta like out of the fridge and just start eating it, and like maybe there might have been a tiny bit of mold in the corner of the pasta thing, and my mom would not like freak out, but kind of freak out and be like, "Oh,
Sure.
oh, you just you like metal, just eat anything, won't you? Like you shouldn't eat that." And
hmm
my brother was like, "Oh yeah," like at least I remember him being that way. He might not have, and I just knew on the inside I was like, "No, that's disgusting. I would never want to eat that."
Mm.
Apparently, like that's something that guys are supposed to want to do is to like eat potentially
That's the
moldy
conclusion you
pasta.
jump to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of like dumb things like that on top of just being I would say like very as a kid, and I'm not sure all of the reasons for this. It's not like I have to know and understand everything, but I'm saying all of this just as a preface to what I'm saying,
Mm,
because of how much hope it's given me to understand that I don't just have these feelings for no reason.
mm,
Even though I can't understand every corner of my own soul, there's been so much growth in being able to understand more of why I've experienced what I've experienced and to be able to
mm,
open up those areas of my life to God honestly and have him start to transform those things and produce growth and change that's very real and perceivable. That's blowing my mind.
mm,
Yeah, so that's why I'm talking about these little details. It's to try to understand and really have the blessing of understanding more and more of the meaning of why I have this condition that the world looks at me and says, it's just a complete mystery. We have no idea why you'd be feeling these things, and
hmm
it's probably super core to who you are as a person.
Yeah. And you do bring up a
Yeah.
good point with that example of seeing you had mom and dad, you had a sister and a brother,
Hmm.
and if dad was one way and your brother was like him that way, and you didn't identify with that as well, it didn't relate to you,
Hmm.
that you would jump to a conclusion, then I must not be like most men. I'm not like what a guy is supposed to be. And with that example of dad eating some partly moldy noodle, like it's a most people might look at that and be like, that's a silly story, but the way things impact us as kids, it could be the most arbitrary, silly thing, and our parents probably have no idea the impact that might have on us. No one else may experience it the same way, but subjectively, we can experience all sorts of things in a very impactful way. Uh, very common truism in the counseling world is that kids are great storytellers, but they're not good interpreters. They can remember a lot. Things hit them, and they take it to heart. They remember it, but they don't know how to make sense of it always the best way, or in a way that is uh, fully accurate. You know, they remember in a way that makes sense to them, and they don't question it because that's their perspective. We don't People don't dispute their own conclusions. So yeah, that makes sense. That if that's emblematic of some of the things you would experience. Uh, and I like that you're bringing this up, and I do appreciate that your story doesn't fit a lot of the either stereotypes or the main most common presentations that we see with guys with same-sex attraction. Uh, because even people who are in agreement with the work I do, and even would say like the developmental model, they will tend to oversimplify things if they're mostly like the lay people type, and even some of my colleagues who, in the counseling field, as just saying things like, "Oh, well, there has to have been a breach in the boy's relationship with his dad, or he had a older brother who would berate him or bully him, or he was abused, or he was molested." And that's not always the case. And I'm always quick to point that out that sometimes it's true, not always. Like there's nuance to this. If anything, I will go out on a limb by saying the main thing that I see in at least three-quarters of the cases of the guys I work with is a sense of gender inferiority or insecurity, that there's something about me that doesn't make me like the other boys. That's what we tend to see in majority of the guys. And even that I'm being saying majority when I can also name other subtypes where that's not the case. So I do appreciate that you are bringing in an aspect of this that's not seen or heard of or talked about enough, just to show that, hey, we can see nuance in the development of same-sex attraction. It doesn't have to fit a mold or a stereotype. So, any other
Yeah, absolutely.
formative experiences or other things you've noticed in your journey that you've can identify?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say growing up, I was also just a very critical thinker, in some ways a deep thinker.
Hmm.
Um, and I also, had I would say probably the thing that's rung the most true for me as I look back at history. I like the way you describe how like kids are, um, yeah, they can be great reporters of history, but terrible interpreters of it.
Hmm.
And really, just for anyone listening, anything I'm saying is another way to look at my childhood experiences. And these are the types of experiences that would cause me to look back at my life upon realizing that I'm being attracted to guys. These types of experiences are what I would in the past look back on and say, oh, I was always gay. This is proof that I was always gay. And I
Yeah.
could tell from the time I was like 5.
Hmm.
But this is another way of looking at it where I can see these experiences and say, oh, I was trying to find who I was as a boy, as a man, growing in masculine the normal development of that all boys go through, and I
Yeah.
had some hangups in that process, like we all do in some ways. It's just certain ones of these hangups hung me up a little more than others in parts of my journey. Um, so yeah, I would say another one of those would be I was another way I don't fit stereotypes is like I was
Hmm.
naturally athletic, um,
Hmm.
like pretty smart, like just generally good at things. I was homeschooled, so in some ways, like I didn't have the most competition ever because it, but
You and your twin brother. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, he's very smart. My brother's probably smarter than me, but when it came to like athletics, I was more athletic than my brother.
Hmm.
Um, Found myself being a little more outgoing and
Hmm.
social. That's changed since then. But all of
Hmm.
that being said, I generally had a decent amount of like success as a kid. Um, However, I would look at it didn't matter what it was, whether it was a sport. I would look at the guys who were even better than me at it, even if I was good, and I would just want to have what they had so bad and be like
Hmm.
very like jealous of it. Or look at the guys in a room and think, oh, if they were funnier than me, like I need to somehow become that funny. Otherwise, I'm
Hmm.
not living up to expectations, or I need to become that smart. Like whatever it was, like I have to get to the top of any social hierarchy that matters to me in my head.
Hmm. Very competitive. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
And what was your dad like? Was he athletic? Was he any of
yeah,
those things that you were like trying to emulate?
yeah, yeah. He's very athletic, and when he wants to be, he can be the center of attention and
Hmm.
all of that. But yeah, but he was never someone that needed the recognition.
Sure.
Something I appreciate about him.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, with this envy of other guys, I started to do that thing where you walk into a room and you're sizing people up. You're like,
Hmm.
where do I stand in comparison to them?
Yeah.
And I think that started out as like somewhat healthy because that's how you grow as a boy, you look at the world around you and you say like, "Oh, how do I need to grow and improve and how do I fit in better?" Um,
Yeah.
but to me, I think it became this type of like introspection that someone like Leanne Payne, awesome author. I know you know about her, but
Hmm.
she would call it diseased introspection or like the disease of introspection, and
Mm. Yeah.
where
Can
you
you
just kind of,
define that a bit for people?
yeah, I'd say it's where you're the general like momentum and thrust of where your mind goes, it just turns in on yourself rather than on others and
Mm.
out to others and out to God, where you just spend the majority of your time thinking about how everything reflects back onto you. Something good
Hmm.
happens to someone else. Well, what does that mean about me? Or you see, it could be a negative thing or a positive thing about anyone or anything else in the world. You're always thinking about how this reflects on what you do or do not have and how you are or are not, rather than looking out at the world and saying, hey, God made me a blessing to the world. I get to appreciate it and be a blessing and be focused on um, really like understanding my creator better and understanding other people better
Mm.
and truly not being handcuffed by all this being in your head.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I would say the envy was like the epitome of that for me. And like between having this like gender insecurity as a kid and then also being very
Mm.
competitive and having all this envy of other guys. Like I reached this point in middle school slash high school where like all of a sudden I started to develop these, sexual feelings towards guys and because and I really believe this is the case that that type of guy that I wanted to be like, who had a certain type of masculinity that I wanted more of, and I didn't feel like I had enough of
Mm.
in myself. To me, that was more of what I needed and more of what I didn't relate to than the women in my life and like my sister and friends. I had a lot of friends that were girls, connected
Okay.
very easily with them. Um, and there was nothing very mysterious about women to me at that point in life.
Mm.
Whereas the
Yeah.
type of guy that I wanted to measure up to, it was like, oh, I can never quite approach that. I can never quite be that.
Mm.
And yeah, in middle school, it's like those sexual feelings kind of drawing you to the mystery of something other than you that you need in a sense to complete yourself. Um,
Yeah.
I felt like I needed more masculinity rather than really the healthy needing of the opposite sex because I can
Hmm.
never be a woman and I can never contribute what women contribute to the world. So I do
Hmm.
need I do need women in some way, whether I'm single or not. Um, but I don't need to. I need my brothers. I need other men, but I don't need. Uh, I can actually embody the masculinity rather than needing it
Yeah.
from.
You don't need their masculinity for yourself like you need to absorb it. You need the community that comes from other men
Yeah.
to reinforce what you already have.
Yes.
It's like you know who you are more as you see it reflected in them. And then what that does is that normatively what that does is it sparks in us the desire to seek out what we do not have, the union with the opposite sex.
Hmm.
And, so vice versa for women. So so as you start noticing these feelings, junior high, uh, how are you handling that? What was your response, your reaction to those feelings?
Yeah. Yeah. God really protected me because a lot of my friends that have gone through things like this, I think, had it a lot worse, where they knew what was going on and it hung on them like a giant wet blanket.
Mm.
But for me, I barely even realized that was what I was going through.
Huh.
Um, like I would have like in my dreams that I would have, I'd be like, they'd be about guys if they were fantasies. But I was like, that probably changed at some point. I just felt like it was going to change one day.
Huh.
And I didn't worry about it. Um,
Hmm.
other than that, I knew that like even though I wanted to play football, like there was some side of me that was like, well, if I was in a locker room with other guys, like I might have a problem and that might be embarrassing.
Hmm.
Um, so I like knew in some ways and then didn't in others. And so it wasn't until I was like 18, literally halfway through my first semester in college, to where like I realized, hey, this switch isn't going to just flip on its own. I'm clearly like a mature man at this point, and I guess at that point I was like, I guess I'm what the world would call gay because
Hmm.
I don't feel any romantic or sexual attraction towards women. Um, yeah, at least, or not any that I recognized, and I very much felt that way towards guys.
Hmm.
Um,
So
yeah,
that's really interesting that it was sort of not that big a deal to you at first, or you you didn't give it a ton of thought before that point in college.
yeah,
Because earlier you're saying like you were so introspective, you focused in on yourself so much, yet even with that trait, it didn't result in you doing that same thing when you started noticing this sexual attraction toward men
yeah.
or
It doesn't
toward
make
male
sense.
peers. So
It's
it's
pure, I think, purely mercy from God. Just
hmm,
being like, you don't have to. I'm gonna keep you from going through that. Um, and I've seen God rescue people out of the shame of people that were more aware and buried under the secrecy and like
hmm,
um, I don't know, just the heaviness of it as a kid.
yeah,
And he's rescued them from that, but he just decided to keep me from ever going through that process. So I'm thankful for that, to be honest.
yeah, praise God. Interesting.
Yeah,
So sophomore year comes around, you're like, okay, I'm this isn't just going away naturally.
yeah.
Um, so then what? What became your course of action and how you dealt with the same sex attraction?
Yeah, so this is where it gets into one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of your channel,
Mm,
is because I started looking for resources like where can I find voices of Christians who are dealing with same-sex attraction and not wanting to act on it? Because I always knew it would be wrong to purposefully lust in my head or to do anything with any other people, sexually speaking. And so I was like, um,
mm,
and even though I felt attracted to that, there was a side of me that was like, I don't want to because that just that would be very wrong, and I just knew it.
wow.
So yeah, so I started looking for resources, and the first ones I came across were, if anyone's heard of it, the Side B um, Christianity World, which um, are like I would describe it as people who want to not they would describe themselves as same-sex attracted, or they write on behalf of people who are, um,
Hmm.
but they believe it's wrong to act on these feelings. However, they would say that you're very unlikely to experience much change in your desires,
Hmm.
and also pursuing change is probably more likely to lead to disappointment than to clarity and growth. Um,
Hmm.
so a lot of them, I think, would say to they would say it's okay to call yourself gay, like you're a gay Christian. It's just that gayness needs to be beneath your identity in Christ. To where
Yeah.
like I am a Christian, I'm a child of God, and I have various other identities, and somewhere down there, I'm also gay. And the reason why I would describe myself that way is because it's most likely permanent. It's most likely just something I'm going to be stuck with, although God will help me endure and help me through it a little bit in some ways.
Hmm.
Um, kind of, I shouldn't expect to be less like passionately drawn to the members of the same sex or experience growth in attraction towards the opposite sex. Um, because they would say God just doesn't really like promise that type of growth.
Hmm.
Um,
Or transformation or
or
change.
yeah.
Uh, would it be also fair to sort of describe it as they view sexuality similar to, say, any other benign demographic categorization, like race or ethnicity? So to say that you're a gay Christian is no different than saying that you're a black Christian or an American Christian. Is it, would that be accurate as well?
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of similarities there, even though I know that they would be aware of nuances in like, okay, some of sexuality does have to do with sins I've committed, and
Mm,
there's lust involved in there, whereas like my ethnicity doesn't have anything to do with
there's nothing
with
morally
a sin.
intrinsically connected to skin color, for example.
Right, right. But
Well, it depends on who you're talking to these days.
people wouldn't go off crazy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was the first exposure I had. I read Greg Cole's book, Single Gay Christian,
Hmm.
and it helped me a lot, particularly in realizing I wasn't alone. This is like
Hmm.
the credit that I can give to the side B movement. Um, there are people who are very strong about the biblical reasons for why same sex is wrong. Um,
Hmm.
Helped me a lot in building a biblical foundation for exactly how we know the Bible says that. Um, it also helped me a lot reading these books. It helped me a lot to understand um, how much I wasn't alone and to have more of the shame reduced attached to these feelings because it's like, oh, there's a lot of Christians that are also dealing with this and
Hmm.
like they're very compassionate people and care a lot about finding a pastoral approach to um, people dealing with this not feeling alone in the church. So, for example, they would talk about how you can empower singles in your church to not feel so isolated because a lot of churches geared towards married couples,
Hmm.
um, which is just generally true. That can be true a lot of times. I've experienced great like churches that do great with singles and individuals that help with that. And then I've also experienced some limitations in how easy it is to plug in sometimes if you're into a church. Um, if
Yeah.
you don't fit the most common trajectory of like your life story. Um,
Hmm.
so I also resonate and appreciate their desire to help encourage the church to be more aware of singles in general, um, for any reason that someone might be single.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I didn't realize that this perspective, while it was helping me grow up to a point, I believe it started to hold me back. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until 3 or 4 years into that process that I met a mentor named Jim Childs, who has a heart, mind, and soul ministry.
Okay.
And he spoke at my church that I grew up at and basically sat me down, had about a 5 hour long conversation with me, where I was insisting to him over and over again, like,
Mm.
look, I am gay and I'm a Christian and this is like just how I am and blah 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 blah. I was very insistent on that.
Mm.
And Jim very patiently um would just look at me and say,
Mm.
"Are you sure?"
Mm.
He's like, "I don't know that that's true for you." And I'm like fighting him on it because there was a side of me that did kind of attach to this gay identity where because of the weight of the struggle, like as like
Mm.
struggling with porn got worse, struggling just in less in various ways, um, and also seeing more of my friends get married and I wasn't, and like
Mm.
as the struggle got worse, like I needed ways to cope with to explain like why am I going through this, and
Mm.
in a lot of ways to help me feel better. And I would say one of the main ways that I did that was by this idea that like I'm a gay Christian, I get to help the world understand how to better treat gay Christians. Like
Mm.
I'm kind of really like a special minority is how I think of myself, where I get to
Yeah.
have this status of like if I don't get to have all the blessings and benefits as my quote unquote straight brothers, then
Mm.
I might as well I deserve at least some like special class that I get to be in, some status
Mm.
where like my struggle was like weightier than theirs and because that's what people would do all the time. When I tell them
Oh
about it,
yeah.
they'd be like, "Wow, if you can submit this to God, of course I can submit anything. I'm going to God because like this is
You
has
know,
to be
view it as like
worse."
this. Yeah.
You know? And that did if I'm being real, it did feed my ego.
Mm.
I'm not saying it's true for everyone that identifies this way in the side B movement because I don't know anyone's hearts. So
Sure.
like I'm sure there's plenty of people who it doesn't, but there's probably people that are similar to me and like that did feed my ego.
Mm.
So I was fighting Jim, this mentor dude, and I don't know what it was other than honestly like the Holy Spirit as well. Just kind of nagging at me in that conversation to say like, "Hey, Spencer, you kind of want to be right now. I think you just want to be right."
Hmm.
And you know deep down that it's not just wishful thinking. Like, of course, like I don't want to be gay in a sense. Um, but I can't even say that because honestly, the further I got into the side B thing, the more I was like, if someone offered me the option of dealing with having to deal with attraction towards women versus attraction to men, and you
Hmm.
say like either one of those can be sinful. Um, but if you ask me, would you rather be attracted to women than men? At a certain point in that process, I was like, if I was being real with myself, I was like, no, I don't even want to be different than this
Hmm.
because this feels like it's who I am in some way, and I don't see this as like a further deviation from God's norm. I just see it
Hmm.
as like lust on the equal playing field. I'm not saying that like if you
No,
experience
yeah,
this, you're
that's exactly what. Hmm.
like dirtier and more sinful in the sense of like you're just a more corrupt human being. Like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that these specific desires are further from God's design than heterosexual lust. Like it just is. And so
Hmm.
I knew that
By
at
the
some
time you
point
didn't
deep
see
down.
that, but or
Yeah.
at least you're in denial of it in some way. Like, no, no, no,
Yes.
this is better for me to be. Um,
Yeah.
and it's funny because there are some cases with clients. I see this especially with some of my clients from more uh, sacramental church backgrounds,
Hmm.
where uh, we don't really deal with this as much in Protestantism, but in say Catholicism and Orthodoxy, they so revere Mary that that becomes the epitome of what a woman is. So some of the guys I've worked with, that was one of the things that sort of inhibited their heterosexual strivings because they so associated with the feminine with Mary and how she's so pure and sacred. You should never, therefore, uh, taint that by lusting after a woman. So it's like they shut off that part of themselves that might be drawn toward women. And so, no, as soon as they might have had any inkling of a sexual thought or romantic feeling toward a woman, they shut it down in their adolescence. But there's still that sexual energy that had to go somewhere, so they gave an
Yeah.
allowance. I'll lust after men then. That felt that felt more good, more pure to them.
Yeah.
That felt like more allowable. So probably wasn't your case, but that is a story that I hear in some version amongst a lot of my more sacramental Christian clients.
Yeah, to say even in Protestantism, there's
Mm.
the negative side of like purity culture. I did
Yeah, it might not
experience
be
that
so
at
much
a level.
about Mary, but yeah, when you're among more of the evangelicals with purity culture, yeah, we were given that message so much, don't you have sex before marriage? And it was always in the heterosexual context. And so it could
Hmm.
very well easily be like, well then, doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with homosexuality, I'll just do it with guys. Not a very well thought out rationale, but and most of the time I don't think we're actually consciously thinking this out. It's just where our
No,
emotions will tend to go toward whatever seems at least what'll be safer.
right. Because for me, it wasn't like, oh, let me do this with guys. It's more just like, if I started to feel anything towards a woman, I need to stop
Hmm.
and shut that down.
Yeah,
And like, no one tried to. I don't know how large of an impact that had on me. I would say it's more what I mentioned before, like gender insecurity, envy, all of that stuff.
sure.
But I would say there probably is some level to which just just not really seeing not being taught to the absolute best extent of how good sexuality is of a thing,
Yeah.
and to be taught to appreciate that appropriately throughout the years. But that's so hard to pull off with kids. So I don't really blame people much for that going
It
wrong.
is hard to pull off,
It's
but
hard to
it's
pull off.
necessary. We need to do
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Like last year, I was speaking at a summer camp, and I'm like, "What am I?" They wanted me to talk about purity, sexual
Hmm.
purity, and I'm like, I can tell them all that things that's wrong with sexual sin,
Hmm.
and I will probably be preaching to the choir, these bunch of church kids. It's probably stuff they've already heard. I want to
Yes.
at least start with blessing their sexuality, giving them a vision for what the goodness is of their sexuality, because that's probably the message they're not getting enough of. And it's so necessary. They need to start with a positive vision for why God gave us sexual feelings and sexual capacity and urges and desires and attractions. Uh, and so, yeah, there's a real problem when we start thinking that, well, if I'm attracted to women, it's still just as lustful as being attracted to men. Like, well, something's gone wrong in our
Hmm.
anthropology and our development and our education as a Christian. If we think that both are just as sinful, and to even think that just to find a woman attractive is equivalent to lusting after her.
Hmm. Hmm.
Similarly, to find a man attractive is the same as lusting after him. Like
Yeah.
that's not the same thing. You can notice a man's positive attributes, and that's not the same thing as lusting after him. So even to my super conservative friends who maybe are particularly opposed to side B, I try to caution them to don't jump to right away saying that side B is affirming same-sex lust because they are sort of being uh, complacent with their sexual attractions.
Right.
To
Right.
just be more accepting of the attractions as an experience is not the same thing as endorsing and going into lust. So that's the problem. We don't make enough of a distinction, enough of the nuance here. We just jump right into if I feel any sort of attraction, I'm lusting, and so we either go into a fear reaction, I need to shut this down,
Hmm.
or we jump the other direction and well, let me just embrace it then. I can't fight this. So anyway, I can go on and on about this, as you know.
Hey, I love it.
So there's a lot of things that are coming up here with what we're talking about. So I'm sure we'll dip
Mhm.
back in and on some of the stuff you're saying here. Um, but I like where you're going with that was it was kind of a dead end as you're starting to realize this side B approach maybe helped with reducing the shame, helped
Hmm.
you know you weren't alone.
Hmm.
Uh, but then there's no growth from there. It would kind of stop you at that bus stop. That's as far as it went. Didn't help you get
Yeah.
further in your own spiritual maturation process.
Yeah, not in that area of my life, of my sexuality.
Yeah.
Um, and and also it was like a bar having a barrier to how much God could, through his like sanctifying power, change my heart in this area of life. It
Mm,
it it didn't, and I don't think does, just stay it on solely the issue of sexuality. Like if, believing in God to
mhm,
be able to change and work on this area of our life um will help any other sin issue we have or any other struggle we have. And if we also put limitations on God in this area of life, while you're still going to grow and God's still going to mature you. And my side B friends, I see so much growth and maturity in them in various areas of life.
mhm,
I know for me, and I do believe honestly for anyone, that the more you hang on to just believing that a if you believe that an area of your life that's broken isn't really subject very much to the healing power of Jesus, then it'll also rub off on the other areas of your life. And I
mm,
think there's so much growth I've experienced in letting go of calling myself gay that goes way beyond semantics, way beyond like, oh, you're just you're just using a different word to describe the same thing. I'm like,
mm,
okay, no, no, I'm not. Like really,
mm,
I don't believe that like gay describes me at all, and I believe that what was going on under the surface has almost nothing to do with gay attractions. Like
mm,
it's underlying desires for completeness as a man um and dealing with even some root sins that are deeper sins than, 'cause I think there's root sins and there's root needs and insecurities that need to be healed.
mhm,
And if we just look at everything and say, oh, um, lust towards guys for me, that is like the primary thing that I need to repent of. It's like, okay,
Mm,
yes, I do need to repent of that. Like that's wrong. Um, but like the envy under the surface for all these other things about them that I just wish I had, like that's actually deeper than the sexual lust. And
hmm
so was the gender insecurity and feelings of inferiority, not feeling like a man among men. And those are areas that aren't just sin. So that's why if I look at it and say it's all about repentance, it's not just that. Salvation in general is not only about repentance, but it's also about Jesus restoring and healing the brokenness within us.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he's also been able to work on me through these insecurities as well, and not just the underlying sins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this pastor started to, put a pebble in your shoe
Hmm.
with all of this. What next? What happened
Yeah,
after
yes.
that?
It's a process, man. Like literally, okay, so all I would say I spent about 3 years kind of with the side B mentality, three
Mm,
to four. Then end of college was when I met this mentor. And over that time, it's been 6 or 7 years since then, I
okay.
believe. And it's just been this gradual shift of just realizing
Mm,
who God's really made me to be since I've let go of explaining my experience and struggle, which is the catch-all term of like, oh, it's gayness. That's why I'm going through what I'm going through.
mm,
Since I've started to be able to explore, um, yeah, the underlying, really, really like, and I don't want to make it, I want to say underlying causes, but I don't want to make it sound like I understand every single underlying factor because I don't. And I don't
sure.
think any of us will understand every underlying reason why we do anything. Um, but I do believe that Jesus invites us into a process of exploring these things and
Hmm
having like specific things to give to God in prayer. Because it's one thing to just be like, God, like I don't want to be gay anymore. Please change me. And like and he cares about that and like it sympathizes and will help. Um, but I really believe that he wants us to be able to say stuff like God, like I when I walk into this room and there's all these guys here, I feel like I have to be this certain way. And if I don't, then I'm not a man. Like, can you please help me
Mm,
with that?
yeah. Yeah.
And
Get
then he
specific
starts,
with it.
yeah, he starts helping you with that and then bringing guys into your life who break that expectation and way of thinking because of how well they treat you.
Hmm
And yeah, so being able to invite like this process of inviting God into these moments and all these underlying issues, like it would cause me to look back like a year or two later and be like, oh my gosh, like I can like walk into the gym and be changing clothes and it's like I wasn't even bothered by this guy or this
Mm,
situation. It's like I thought I would have been, but I wasn't. It's not like I never could be, but you start to notice like the medical terms I think are helpful where you say if homosexual feelings are a symptom of all these underlying problems, then
hmm
this the symptom of same-sex attraction, sexual attraction, it's becoming less frequent and less intense on average,
Yeah.
which is also not saying that you couldn't experience a very intense attraction out of nowhere. It's just
hmm
that if you were to map out over time what's going on in your life, it's like, yeah, on average, this is getting less intense and less frequent.
Mm,
And it's actually extremely noticeable. And there's a ton of growth. Um,
hmm.
so that's what I began to experience over the next, yeah, 4 or 5 years.
So did this particular mentor continue to help you navigate that or do you have other guys who came along or other mentors or aides that helped you sort of explore this? Or is it a lot of more introspection or relying on divine intervention in different ways?
Yeah.
What did it look like?
Yeah, for me, I would say having a mentor has been very helpful. And then we have an online group of guys that we met with for a long time. And since then, we've become friends and we keep up more that way than anything.
Okay.
Guys dealing with same-sex attraction that all met Jim through various
Okay.
means. And um, that's helped me a lot. Um, also, so I didn't have any other like specific help. about this issue. Um, but really, like I would say almost the most important thing is to be able to have good, solid relationships with guys who don't even deal with same-sex attraction,
Mm,
to be able to break all of the ways of feeling different from
mm,
that type of guy that you built up over so many years. And that's what I also attribute a ton of healing that God's done through those relationships, through my college best friends, just being able to be very open with them about my feelings. And
mm,
even in some cases, in situations where I dealt with attraction towards one or two of them, being able to
mm.
literally say that and then they're chill about it and they're like, no, I get it. And not in like an egotistical way, like, oh, I'm just so attracted, but more like oh, like, well, that makes sense that this would happen from time to time. And they didn't like shrink back from me at all. And um,
How
yeah,
challenging was that for you to open up to a degree with some of your male friends?
it's like every year would decrease. Freshman year of college, and some of this I do attribute to the side B thing too. It
Mm,
was because it's like a really big deal to be gay, kind of in the side B world.
mm,
Like it just becomes a big part of who you are. So therefore, like coming out, even though it might go well, it's still like this big deal, I guess.
mm,
So I had a lot of anxiety around it, and as I told more and more people, it would decrease because whenever I told people about these feelings, I always said that God was working on it, um
mm,
and that I believe that acting on it would be wrong, and so I actually never experienced any judgment from Christians. Um,
mm,
it was just sympathy, like, oh shoot, that sounds really hard, and it would cause them to open up to me more because I was
mm,
willing to share something that was that vulnerable. Um, so I would say like if I had quote unquote come out to them in like a more militant way of like I'm gay and I'm not being taken care of and you need to figure out how to help me better.
mm.
Um, which a lot of people, if they come across that way, it's probably more as a result of pain than like them trying to be militant or something. But like
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when people have bad experiences, I would say more often than not, sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, and someone just happens to mistreat you. But
Mm,
I'm just saying, I've literally talked to at this point hundreds of Christians in person about my same-sex attraction, and never once had anyone be judgmental about it or like give me some negative reaction when
mm.
I told them this is what I'm dealing with. God's working on it in me, and I don't really want it. I don't
Wow.
want it, but God's helping me through it. So,
Would you say there's because I've I've had clients who they've
mhm.
opened up to some male friends and the male friends told them, I can't be your friend then because I'm worried that you'll develop an attraction to me. And so it's backfired for some guys. And that's
Yeah,
like super frustrating for me as a therapist because one of my hopes for clients I'm working with is that they will find guys that they can talk to about this stuff and be accepted in it and
hmm,
help reduce the shame and anxiety they have. And for it to be confirmed by someone saying that, it just sets them back a bit. Like, oh
yeah,
crap, they just did all this work of sharing this and that was being rejected. So it's amazing to me to hear that you've spoken to so many guys and you haven't gotten such a negative reaction. Um, I'm curious. Anything about maybe the region in which you live, the demographics of where you're at,
yeah,
that might have contributed to it being a little more received in a healthy way?
yeah. Well, I'm from Boise, Idaho, and that's where I've lived my whole life. We're just generally chill over here, so that could be part of it. But
Hmm.
um, I would say that when I've talked to people and friends about this, um, the first friends I would reach out to, like they were guys that showed like signs of spiritual maturity,
Hmm.
and that they cared about people, they cared about ministry. We would do campus ministry together in college, and um, that I'm sure helped. But I would say with the guys who I've shared this to, who like I have no reason to like like know that they would have a good reaction. Because
Hmm.
I would encourage anyone out there, like if you haven't told anyone, like yes, find people you respect spiritually and tell them.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's very important. Um, But among the guys to whom I had no reason to trust them spiritually, um, I think maybe one of the reasons why it's gone so well is because I've never really told them out of a place of like confiding in them exactly.
Hmm.
Because I already had people I was confiding in. I was
Okay.
more telling them from the standpoint of like wanting to share about how God is changing me and working on me in my life.
Uh,
And like I think when you come from a place of hope, it's like it's just inspiring. And for anyone to give you a negative reaction, they have to get past the inspiring part of it first.
hmm.
Like let's say some dude is like actually really uh grossed out by this, where they're
Hmm.
like, oh, like you said you have same-sex attraction, that's so gross. I can't relate in any possible way. Um, like someone like that, if I'm telling them my story in a way that is full of hope, then even if they did have some a little bit of internal negative reaction, just socially, they're probably not even going to give it to me because it would be like a buzzkill on the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and they'd be the one look with egg on their face.
Right,
So,
right. So,
well, yeah, give me more of that inspirational story here. What else has been happening? What have you been noticing over the years,
yeah.
and what are the venues in which you've been sharing?
Yeah. So, um, yeah, recently it's been crazy about like 6 or 7 years into this experience. Um, as I've just surrendered more and more of this envy, and grown in my relationship with other guys and feeling like I really fit in with them. Um, my appreciation for femininity and how God's made women has grown so much to where like I was literally hit out of nowhere with attractions towards women, and I'm like,
Hmm.
which I had heard about that happening. And once again, I've been on this like transformation side of the journey, side some would call it side X, I call
Hmm.
side free. Um,
They got different
there's
names. Yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah,
names for this stuff.
transformation stream or the rebuild column. Yeah,
Yeah,
side X. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
So
as I've
all of
been
a
on
sudden
that trip,
noticing the feminine. Oh, yeah.
yeah, because and I had heard that this could happen,
Hmm.
and there was a part of me that was like, I don't know if it ever will, but they say it can, and it's been like years, but like, people say this process, like, I want to be careful with the way I like frame things expectation wise. Um, but I was
Well, you
aware that this is a life journey
was this
of,
like a an aim you had? Was it an expectation, or were you hoping that, or maybe like being intentional to make sure this would happen for you?
oh, that's a good point, because I did want to experience that.
Okay.
So it was like an aim in a sense. Not ever the primary aim. The primary aim was getting closer to Jesus, working through the things that I know are wrong in me in terms of like
Okay.
having him help me through these insecurities and then repenting of any sort of um yeah, any sort of jealousies and
Got it.
frustrations I've held on to about other guys. Um
Good. Because that
yeah.
does bring to mind there was something else I was going to bring up earlier when you were talking about
Yeah.
your involvement in the side B world and how you sort of realized there was a dead end there.
Hmm.
Um, because I literally just had this conversation with a client last night who he's got same-sex attraction, he's got no attraction toward women, but he's still abstinent, but he's like resents being abstinent
Yeah.
and he wishes he could just have sex and all this. It's
I
super
remember feeling that way. It was
oh,
terrible.
and he's super pessimistic.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I've been hammering at him has been you have to get to that place of acceptance of reality. So what is the truth you have to accept, the reality you have to accept? But that also means being open to uncertainty. And so when he's like, well, I'll always just be attracted to the same sex, like that's just how it is. How is that not accepting reality? I'm like, that's not true. You don't know that.
You
It's
don't.
a big unknown. And so when I think about the side B approach, they are foreclosing on potential for change and growth and transformation because they've settled for this is just what we are.
Mhm.
And my client I'm talking about, he might not use side B terminology, but he's kind of stuck there, he's just in a state of discontent about it though. He hasn't quite
Mhm.
embraced being gay, but he's so skeptical about everyone else who has a testimony of transformation in any way, because he's all hung up on image and, well, they don't look cool enough. They don't seem like they're cool, average, straight guys. And so he's so just settled with this idea, this is what I am, this is how I'll always be. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, you gotta be open to the possibility. If you don't,
Yeah.
then what are your options? Be miserable the rest of your life? So, yeah, having that openness is really key. You at least, as you're sharing your story earlier, it shows you had that openness. But I think it's also okay to admit that, yeah, you did have a hope for more.
Oh
It's
yeah.
okay to be like,
Yeah.
well, I would like this, but you weren't making that your top priority. You were like, let me just keep working on what's beneath things. What am I responsible for? What can I actually do something about? Like, I
Hmm.
can't make myself suddenly be attracted to the opposite sex. Like, so
Hmm.
let me work on the envy I have, the other sins at the root, the other wounds, the compulsion to compare myself to other guys, etc. Like, those are things you can do something about, with the hope that maybe I would love to experience this. Let's see.
Yeah.
Being open to that possibility is the mind frame that I think is really the best one to have.
Yeah. No, that's true because I feel like a lot of times, yeah, people just aren't that open to, um, yeah, what they could experience to what God could do in this area of their lives, and it's sad and frustrating to see because,
Mm,
like, I've literally never run into a drawback to letting go of kind of this
mm,
whole like LGBT identity thing. Like,
mm,
and that's what still blows my mind to this day to reflect on and to experience more and more of like when I am totally open to what God may do in my life, where even though I don't necessarily have this expectation where I'm like next year I need to be this way because we don't do that about anything else in life. Like let's say I have an anger issue. I wouldn't say if I don't become anger free in 5 years, then it's not
mm.
possible to have serious growth in this area of my life.
I'll just
You know?
embrace being a rageaholic.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And anger is kind of similar because there's a lot of insecurities and wounds, and there's also sin, and it's like it's
Mm,
not all that person's fault why they're that way. Like there's so
hmm.
much that's happened to them, um, like psychologically, emotionally, all of that, where they're
Yeah.
also victims, and like that's true. Um, but that being said, we wouldn't say, hey, you're never going to like God promises that you will never ever experience being able to be easily set off with anger again in your life. Um,
Mm,
but we would
yeah.
say like that is promised in heaven in eternity, right?
Yeah.
But we would say you should expect serious growth in this area, and like it's very much
Hmm.
available to you, um, in God's timing, and we're going to work together to pursue this,
Hmm.
um, and expect growth and like have like an attitude of faith that isn't like some sort of like prosperity gospel faith where like, oh, if I have enough faith, God will make it to where I don't struggle with anything and nothing's hard ever again. It's not that. It's just saying that when I take the things that are hard to God in faith that He will build my character, um, we actually, have this confidence that God is going to, um, help us climb a mountain and be able to climb another one after that and
Hmm.
build faith to say like, oh, he's gotten me to the point to where like I'm not so insecure about my gender anymore. Is there ever a moment where maybe I like, um this is what I'm saying, like this is more how it is these days a lot of time where like if I'm going to feel significant same-sex attraction, like I'll feel like little bits here or there. If I feel significant same-sex attraction, it's when I feel like I'm not doing what I need to be doing in life, and I'm insecure, and I'm tired, and I'm
Hmm.
whatever, and I'm not living up to the expectations that I should be living up to in life. And now I can see it more for what it is and be like, oh wow, that's kind of like a way that like my body and mind has like learned to handle, and make sense of failure in my
Yeah.
own life. Um, but that's been changing so much to where it's like there's plenty of times where I'd look at a situation and say, I got to the end of the day, I feel like I failed that day, blah blah blah. But then but then I'm like, oh, I should be wanting to lust after God. I should be wanting to like want to watch porn. I should be wanting to do that. And I just don't, you
Hmm.
know? Like I
So even when in a normal circumstance that might be more triggering, it's
yes, it's just
not as
not as
frequent.
yeah.
That's a sign of significant growth right there. Yeah.
Hmm.
But another thing I was just going to notice here is the difference in paradigm from how you're describing it and those who adhere to the sexual orientation paradigm, whether
Yeah.
side A or side B. So
Hmm.
you're understanding it as the same-sex attraction is the dependent variable, and your emotions, your needs being met, your sense of being secure, those are the independent variables. Whereas everyone else, they look at it as, oh, no, no, no. Those are the dependent variables, and your sexual orientation is your independent variable. That's just what you are. And everything else, how much self-worth you have, how much security you have is all based on how you view your sexual orientation. And it's like, how about it's the other way around?
Yeah.
Like, as I grow more secure, my sexual or attractions may actually change as I grow in that security of who I am as a man, etc.
No, I think that's it. Like, and it's a great way of describing it for our scientifically inclined friends.
Yeah.
Where, uh, yeah, where I just think a lot of the side B thing is just switching up the order. We're starting from the wrong place, and we're like,
Mm.
why is this going on in my life? Why am I having these feelings? It's like, oh, probably because I'm gay. And then when I have insecurities and lust and all this stuff, those are kind of what, like you said, those are kind of what like ebb and flow and almost kind of um
Yeah, so
those
say like,
those are
oh,
more
what?
malleable than the gayness.
Yeah, that
Whereas it's
stays.
yeah, where it's the reality is like we're all going to have our ups and downs and insecurities that ebb and flow. And what's actually like changeable, like to, like complete like actually completely changeable in a lot of ways is how we see them.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is like I used to think that was more just a semantic difference because that was how it was when I first met Jim and kind of transitioned to being more transformational versus side B. I was like, okay, I think this is how the Bible describes homosexuality. It's not really following the sexual orientation paradigm. It's not really who I am. But to me, it was more just something I believed in my head, propositionally,
Mm.
that I did because I thought it was right. But to me, it was like functionally, I also could have just said I was gay because I'm still having all the same feelings, still experiencing this the same way.
Mm.
And it wasn't until over time that I started to see that, like, oh, shoot, I was getting the order of these things wrong. Like, yeah, these insecurities and fears and doubts and lust and envy and all this stuff, like they really were the source rather than the outflow of my issues here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else you'd add about how you've been noticing the attraction to the feminine? You're noticing that uh was that a strange experience for you, even though it was something you're kind of hoping for would be something you'd experience at some point? Was it unexpected? Was there anything you were doing that would help facilitate it? Did you start like, well, let me start putting myself out there, going on dates? Like, what what has that been like?
Yeah. Yeah, well really, yeah, it was crazy. I was just hit with um yeah, these feelings towards women when I reflected on like godly sexuality on being a gift to a woman,
Mm,
saying, okay, my sexuality is designed to not be disease introspection, where I'm just thinking about myself and how to
mm,
get pleasure and how I'm performing or whatever, but to be like, how can I serve this person and be the best gift to them, possibly physically even. Then when I was like reflecting on that and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. I'm feeling things I never felt. Um, and it's really easy. Like it's just it's coming to me very easily. And so I was like, okay, like I'll try dating. So
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, I've been doing that. And yeah, it's just crazy to see like having the ability to um having to be able to actually date a woman to be like, okay, first of all, there's all these things that I didn't understand. I thought I just understood women and I related to them even more than other guys and realizing how much it's like, oh, they're actually very different. And like some of the ways could be like the things that like can annoy guys sometimes, but more of it is like, oh shoot, this is an amazing mystery. And like I'm
Yeah.
actually I appreciate Marco Casanova said this with Living Waters,
Hmm.
but he's like, I'm actually fascinated by women. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well that's I'm understanding that now and having the
Yeah.
chance to um yeah, put myself in this position, it's just caused so much growth in not just confidence in who I am as a man, but just even deeper appreciation for how God designed man and woman, designed me, and I'm just like, dang, this is so much better. This is genuinely so much better
Hmm.
than any of the lustful sexual attraction that I've had. Um, Especially because so much of that was like fear based, like sizing a guy up and comparing yourself to them, and it's like it's almost like yeah, like a halfway fear response that's just very different than coming as a not completely whole, but like a decently whole,
Hmm.
mature man who God is building up, and to be like, I have something to give and I want to give it. That's
Yeah.
such a different feeling than being like, I need this thing from a guy that I don't have.
Hmm.
Um, it's more
Yeah.
like I can give this thing to a woman that she doesn't have, and she can give something to me that I don't have, and it's
Hmm.
actually like a beautiful thing rather than me trying to take something that I should literally be embodying myself.
Exactly.
You know?
What's the response you've been noticing from women that you've dated? Uh, do you have you shared your story, your background? Is your history of coming out of same-sex attraction something they're aware of, and what's the reaction been?
Yeah, yeah. That's something I talk about early on.
Okay.
I'm just a very open person in general, and especially
Hey,
since
great.
I mean I'm doing this podcast and I make
Yeah, it's gonna
music
be out
talking
there.
about
So,
it's very much
but
out there anyway, um but as far as like reactions,
hmm
I think it's just genuinely true that if you and a woman genuinely appreciate each other and have respect and admiration for each other, then while something like same-sex attraction could be a deal breaker for some women, and
hmm
that's understandable, like working through that. Um, if you actually genuinely connect with a woman, I'm saying this for any guys in my position,
Yeah.
like it's more likely that they'll remain interested in you than not. Like if
mm
they were actually interested in you to begin with,
hmm
and you're experiencing growth and all of that.
Yeah.
I just say that for hope because same with quote unquote, I don't like the language of it, but coming out to friends or family, other guys, it's like, yes, while this can go wrong, and it's not a guarantee that it'll always be accepted well,
hmm
when you are really able to be in a place of seeing God growing you so much to where it's genuinely a hopeful and inspirational thing that's going on in your life. Like I'm telling you, like people normally react well to that. And it's
Yeah.
actually the exception for someone to have a problem.
Yeah.
It really is. So,
Some of the guys I work with, they're so terrified
yeah.
to date and think, well, no man will ever accept me. No,
Hmm.
sorry, they'll think no woman will ever accept me.
Yeah.
Um, some guys will think no man will accept me if just trying to talk to friends,
Hmm.
but then they're terrified to try going to dating because they think, well, no woman will ever accept a guy if she knows that he had a background of SSA.
Yeah.
And Like, dude, there's so many stories I know of where that's just not true.
Yeah.
And um,
Godly women in general, they're women. Like women are. This is one of those things that I think does kind of make them a little different, and it's a good thing, and it's a fascinating thing. But yeah, I just think they're more forgiving with these things than like guy friends. Like they'll like to make a lot of jokes. You talk to them about this, they'll make the gay jokes. It's kind of fun, makes you feel like camaraderie because you're all able to laugh
and
about the
I'm
stuff you
glad you
did,
had that
right?
because some guys are terrified of the gay jokes that they make fun of me. Like, good, let them make
No,
fun
it's
of you. It's fun. That's what we do.
it,
That's when you know you're in with the guy group when they
you're
start
giving your
ribbing on
friends
you.
the opportunity to make these jokes that they normally.
Yes.
So it's actually like a gift to them in a sense. But but with women, I think so often they're almost more like intrigued. They're like, "Oh wow, like
Hmm.
this person has a lot of depth." And because it's an area of your life where you've had to explore a lot of
Yeah.
like emotional depths and like women appreciate that. And so if anything, I wouldn't look at that if I were someone going through this that wasn't me. I wouldn't look at it and say that's a liability. Like a woman will see me as less of a man. It's like just as likely that she'll look at you and be like, wow, like a lot of guys don't really address their problems and they don't think through things deeply. And like, I'm actually
Yeah.
really captivated in how much um, it actually can give women confidence to know that if there's a problem in your relationship, you've gone through worse before and
Hmm.
you've remained like faithful to God and optimistic about how God will work through the situation. And it's like if
Yeah.
I can work through same-sex attraction, then like I can work through us disagreeing about finances in a
Hmm.
marriage, or I can work through how to raise a kid, although I'm not saying that that actually might be harder to be honest than
Who
as
knows?
you say, but
But yeah,
yeah.
I one thing I tell people is if there's any sort of liability, it's in you not being honest with her.
Yes.
And so the
Yes.
key thing is to continue to be transparent, authentic. Uh, I mean, I'm even saying this even if you're still at the point of still struggling, with your
Mhm.
behavior and acting out.
Yeah.
I've because as someone who works with guys with SSA or guys with heterosexual sexual addiction issues, I can't tell you the most overwhelming common response I get from the wives when I meet with the wives
Mhm.
finally. Uh, their biggest problem isn't that their husband deals with this issue, is that he kept it a secret or that he lied about it. So the authenticity is really going to be the saving grace.
Hmm.
And not just being authentic, like, hey, I still act out all the time. No, like,
Yeah.
be authentic and also be working on it. Like, continue to do things that would have, whatever it was that helped you get to whatever point of recovery you got to, or that you are continuing to go through, continue those things. Don't ever get complacent in your own healing and transformation. Um, you might hit a sort of pinnacle at some point, but be careful because that plateau might turn into a landslide at some point. So you never want to just get too comfortable, like, I fully arrived. You keep
Hmm.
working. There's
Hmm.
always some other area. You might get to the point where the sexuality isn't really much of a problem anymore. Okay, well, maybe it'll be anger. Maybe it'll be greed. Maybe it'll be some sort of pride issue.
Hmm.
There's always something for you to keep working at. So you always need to have the mentorship in your life, the honesty with others, the, just be surrendering yourself in humility to to God and to whoever God has put in your life to help you grow.
Yeah.
So,
That's so good, man. And that's why I really appreciate ministries that don't only focus on same-sex attraction and they involve any other like in offering people help. They
sure.
combine struggles because yeah, I think so much growth in our life just comes from being able to be honest and vulnerable with other people and with God and then be able to do that in a context where we all believe in God and believe in each other to work through this. That like sometimes the most eloquent and simple answer is the most correct one, right? It's like the whole Occam's razor principle
Hmm.
and the fact that Jesus said that we have to be like little kids to
Yeah.
come to faith in him, and that Paul would say, I'm glad I didn't come to the Corinthians with all these lofty words, so that you might
Hmm.
think the power is in the lofty words and not in like a simple concept here.
Hmm.
That is the gospel of Jesus. And like to be able to see that in my own life, how like just having faith that God does, he does change us. He he doesn't only give you the power to say no to temptation, but he helps heal your heart to not love sin as much as you used to.
Hmm.
He'll help you love him more. And like these are just simple things, but to be around
Yeah.
people who are able to say, yeah, we're just approaching this starting from a place of faith. To say like God does work, God does heal, God does change people. And it doesn't matter what the issue is. And the more that we experience that and that we open ourselves up to this, you can look back and see how there was a ton of change and we could analyze it and realize that there was a lot of complicated stuff going on. But it doesn't have to be complicated and we don't have to know everything about why
Hmm.
about what needed to change and what needed healing and what needed repentance. We just believe that he's going to work, and I'm thankful that he's shown me a lot of specifics in my life
Yeah.
and that I can like um draw out a somewhat complicated diagram of what I believe is occurring.
Hmm.
um but that I also don't totally need that because like ultimately it's like when you are open to Jesus about your struggles in community and you believe that he has power to do something about it, like things happen. Like
Hmm.
stuff changes. It just does, you know?
Yeah, that's just having trust in him.
So, yeah.
'Cause that's another good point because I guess some clients who they get really fixated on trying to figure out the why.
Hmm.
And it's like, look, man, we can discover whys, but that's not going to necessarily because they tend to have this idea once they figure out the why, then it'll like suddenly transform. It's like,
Yeah.
nope. There's still the part where you have to surrender. There's still the part where you have to
Right.
trust God to do something about it. There's
It
still
probably
you
will
to
help, like
challenge yourself.
noticeably,
Sure, I mean,
but
obviously, I take more of a depth approach,
that's true.
so
That is you.
finding
Yeah.
the why is part of the work
Yeah.
I do, but you can't always get down to the very bottom of the why. You can't figure
Hmm.
everything. Like, well, when I experienced this as a child, why did I react this way? Why did I go into same-sex attraction instead of this other reaction like other people have? Like, how you had your particular individual difference. Like,
Hmm.
you could keep asking the why question and never be satisfied.
Hmm.
At some point, you have to come to a place of acceptance that this is how it turned out for me. Now, what can be done about it?
Hmm.
And that's where having that childlike faith is so key. God, I trust you. I know that you can do something with this.
Yeah.
That said, as we're kind of wind down a bit here, tell me a bit about your music and like what are the venues you've been at? What sort of uh responses you've gotten? How long you've been at the game? So,
Yeah. I appreciate the question. I know when I talk to you, then this is one of my few outlets because music's my main thing to
mm,
talk about the same-sex attraction, how God's working me through that and maturing me out of that. Um, but yeah, music is what I spend most of my time doing. So yeah, I mean, really, it was about, I would say the last 5 years, I've been taking it seriously as a
mm,
career, working towards full time, almost there, not quite, but almost
okay.
to full time. It's like building a business,
Oh
an
yeah.
independent music career it's an entrepreneurial endeavor that just takes years usually, unless you just happen to crack the code.
Mm,
But anyways, yeah, I like I said, I make alternative hip hop, alternative R&B, um, yeah, worship music as well. Just kind of
nice.
blend it all together.
It's what I'm made for, so make a way, Lord. My feet will walk it out. And how else will they know if they haven't heard? And how else will they hear if nobody speaks? And how else will they speak if they're never sent out now? I just wanna go where you say. I'm offending these letters and they're redder in my head. I let the pen bleed, cause I need it. I can feel the power when I read it. My spirit come alive when I feed it. Need the whole truth. I just wanna know you and give you the control of every breath you can flow through. Oh, to how beautiful, beautiful, how beautiful are the feet of those, the feet of those who bring the good news.
If any of you guys have heard of someone like a Holvey, he's I would say one of the most up and coming and established at this point Christian rap artists at this point, but he's really done a great job of melding together um, like singing, rapping, and actually just straight up worship, where
Mm,
the way that his songs are written, they feel vertical, like you're talking to God half the time,
yeah.
and that's just the way that I like to write. Um,
Nice.
so most of my music is more in that direction,
Okay.
but I'll dabble in like folk and
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm all over the place, but that's
Good.
part
Just
of
be
the fun.
creative. That's great.
Yeah.
I left it all behind to you, leave it all behind for you. That you and me just wanna know that this was all for something. Cause in the end it's just another night, waiting for the next best scene to keep the fire high. Maybe I'm not fighting right, maybe I'm not trying, like I'm always missing something. I can't help myself, and every time I try to move on, yeah, the demons go a little bit harder. Honestly, they know that I'm lost, yeah. They can smell the blood in the water. Never had control of myself, yeah. I just went a little bit farther. Promise that I know I need help, yeah. I just need the voice of my father. Every time I try to move on, yeah, the demons go a little bit harder. Honestly, they know that I'm lost, yeah. They can smell the blood in the water. Never had control of myself, yeah. I just went a little bit farther. Promise that I know I need help, but I just need the voice of my father.
Are you
Yeah.
finding opportunities as you're doing your music to also share about your story and or is that has that been more through one-on-one conversations with people?
Yeah. So I haven't, okay, I guess I've technically written songs about it, but not where it was overtly, that was the, um, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Everyone knows what I'm saying. Like, it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, yeah.
overtly talking about an SSA struggle, but that was definitely where I was writing from.
Gotcha.
But in live settings, I've now finally, like God's cleared me through some very specific direction, which was kind of crazy to
Hmm.
be able to be public about it finally. Because back in like college, when I first realized that I had these attractions, I literally wanted to talk about it from the beginning because
Hmm.
I never had a lot of shame. I was
Wow.
more just like, I know I'm not going to leave God because of this, and I know a lot of people do, so I need to
Hmm.
talk about this to try to help people not do that, not leave God.
Hmm.
Um, and that was always the mentality. And so literally, it took 10 years for God to work me to a place where He thought I was ready to do that.
Hmm.
And that's what I genuinely believe is that He opened up the doors for this after seeking for 10 years, and now I've started to share at live events, and um, I mean, I'd probably make a song about it at some point. I'm not like opposed to it. It's just it's
Whatever strikes you. Yeah.
right, right. Um,
Awesome. Well, where can people find your music? Do you just go by your regular name, or do you have a tag name of some sort, or do you and what's your
yeah,
socials? Where you on? Where can people find you?
yeah. It's just Spencer Bolio. That's what I go by.
Okay.
Spencer Bolio on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever,
Okay.
all platforms, and um, yeah, I'm gonna be coming out with a lot more. Especially with my collective, my artist collective, Upside Down Kingdoms. What I said with Curtis Hoppy and Derek Ryan. We're going on
Nice.
tour in October. So
Nice.
we'll be busy, getting to share a lot and minister a lot and build the whole nonprofit side of it.
Mm.
So like people can be on the lookout for that, ways to potentially be involved with helping us get our testimonies out there farther and get the music out there farther. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, yeah, individually, I'm just in this place where I'm so excited to finally be. This is my first podcast getting to talk about this ever.
Ah,
So I'm just so thankful for that, and that in combination with music, and to just let those things grow together and try to shine the biggest, try to create the largest window into the work that
mm,
God's doing in my heart,
mm.
through things like this. And working on a book. Who knows when that'll come out, but hopefully within, well, I have no idea when it'll come out.
I know people ask me when I'm going to write a book. I'm like, I have no idea when I'll ever have time to write one, but
I've been wondering
that's,
that
I
about you,
know.
but also I figure being an actual counselor and
It's
therapist, and it's like,
just
y-
doing videos takes a lot of time. Trying to find out when I can actually record stuff. This is a side gig, so yeah.
yeah. Well, and as a word of encouragement about that, like I would say that the ability to impact change and to help support people working through this through the channel
Mm,
is definitely immense, and it's helped me. It's probably helped me more than if I read a book from you.
mm.
Um, that's my opinion.
Well, that's part of the rationale. Is like, because I used to write a blog, but like, who's going to read a blog? People
Hmm.
watch.
Hmm.
I started to realize I watch and listen more than I read anymore these days. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna start doing that. And so I figured that's what I'll do. And I've been able to reach a lot of people that way. So pretty much if I write a book, it would be everything I've been saying on my channel for the past 6 years.
Yeah.
So, but it is an honor that your first interview is on here. So I appreciate you reaching out and wanted to make this the platform to make your first interview. And I wish you all the best, man. And any other closing thoughts? Any other last things you'd want people to know about you and the work you're doing and what God's been doing in your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, yeah. Oh, I would say, just for anyone who is similar to me watching this, because I think a lot of people that watch this channel like to nerd out about the subject
Hmm.
that you talk about. Um, so I would just encourage people to nerd out, to keep going, because there's so much good work that's been done,
Hmm.
that I think has been buried in history unfairly. And just recommend this channel, recommend reading, um yeah, Joseph Nicolosi's books, reading Leanne Payne, reading Andy Comiskey, Ali
Yeah,
Medinger, like all these people from the Exodus movement, where the more I
yeah.
read it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so balanced and deep. And
Hmm.
yes, they don't get everything right, but it's like I'm just blown away by the nuance and depth and compassion, um in these books. And I've learned so much. So
Doesn't fit the stereotype that you've heard everywhere else. Yeah,
no, like it honestly, yeah, it blows my mind, and also like makes me mad that I've been told these things about these books for so many years, and
yeah,
just experiencing that it's literally the complete opposite of what I've been told. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I would just encourage anyone listening, yeah, watch this channel. Obviously listen to my music. That would be great. Um, but specifically for anyone that's here, like I'm even more passionate about, like, yeah, dive into what we've learned through these ministries, what we've learned theologically, psychologically, because yeah, there's such a need to help people and to offer
Yeah,
hope, and it's been under attack. So
yeah,
I'm just thankful that people like you are out here, and I'm wanting to contribute to that in any way possible, through music, through whatever platform God grows with me. Yeah, I really just want to be helpful in getting this out there more. So
well, I appreciate your support, man.
yeah.
Every little bit of word of encouragement I get from people really helps. And so, yeah, I appreciate you just sharing your story. Like, it's a
Mhm.
story that needs to be heard. And people need to know that just because it doesn't match maybe the textbook story you would hear, it actually still actually validates much of what we're saying because of the
Yeah.
root was a sense of inferiority about your gender being man enough. Why
Hmm.
you had that maybe a bit more of a mystery. There might be some nuance to it, But
Hmm.
ultimately, it's as you've been growing in that security in who you are, who God's called you
Hmm.
to be, surrendering the envy and the insecurity that you've been seeing that growth, and you just especially the fact that you hadn't struggled with that deep shame over it really helped propel you even more. So that's been one of my encouragements as well. Guys, one of the first steps is to reduce the shame about it so that you can
Absolutely.
actually find healing. So
Yes.
your story helps really highlight some of the things I've been hammering away at. So I
Hmm.
really appreciate it.
Hmm.
To everyone else, I hope this interview helped the conversation has been encouraging and uplifting to you. Until next time, please know that Jesus loves you freely, fully, faithfully, and fruitfully. Take care.